Hey guys, it's Tracy. I want to share with you the recent project that I completed, which is a recipe book. And Tina, if you don't want to see your book now, then don't watch the video. And I did let her know that via a private message. So before I get into any specifics of the book, let me show you the products that I use. The paper collections is from Recollections. It's the stack here. And this has some really nice papers in it. Some of the papers like have a coating on it, and it reminds me of that new paper that came out by Graphic 45. So that's the paper collection. I have my recipe cards in protective sleeves, which I got from Staples, and it's the Avery sheet protectors, and they hold a 5.5 by 8.5 piece of paper, but I cut mines down to 5.5 by 8 inch. And let me show you what they look like. And see, they already have holes in it. And I bound my recipe book with my cinch, but these holes did not line up with the cinch. Well, most of them did except for two. So I had to come up with an alternative, and my alternative was to create what I'm calling sleeve covers or seam covers. And this is 1 inch wide by 7.25 inches long, and I just scored it in half, and I added tape to both sides. And what I did was just, there's this little piece, see how that, you have that, it ends there. So I just lined that up here and sandwiched that in between, and then just took, and did like that. And then I put it in my cinch and punched my holes in it. So that's how I created the pages for that. I mean the binding for that. So then I used my McGill tab punch. I used a Sizzix embossing folder. Don't know what that's called. I used these dies, which is Sizzix, and I believe this is retired. So if you get a good look at the number, which is 655015. Use this other Sizzix die, which is 655017. And I believe both of these dies are retired dies. I know, maybe several months ago, Sizzix did have this die still on their, what do you call it, their outlet, clearance outlet. What is this? Does this thing have a name? I don't know if it's called cookie, no, that can't be it. Maybe it is. Cookie sheet and spatula. What is this one called? This one's just called apron and mitt. And the other die I used was an Ellison die, all-star die. Knife, fork, and spoon. And I got this, maybe a year or so ago, when they had these on clearance. I believe they were $5. A10748. Alright, I used this Fiskars. It might be called Punch Around the Page. Come on, focus. There you go. So I used that punch. I used this Plaid Stiffy fabric stiffener. This stuff is great too. I use Tulip Puff paint. I use some Martha Stewart micro beads. well, it's my Xyron machine. I believe it's a 510. I had that thing for years. And I used the Xyron eraser. This thing works great too. I used some lace here that I had just received recently from a gift set swap that I was in that was hosted by Scrap the World, or Tamika, who's known as Scrap the World here on YouTube. And I received this from Catrice, who's known as Scrap Elegance. And this is so, I don't have any I don't think I have any lace that's this narrow. So this was perfect, Catrice. So thank you for what I needed. So that's that. And I believe that's it, guys. So let me give you some specifics on my book, which is so cute. I love the way it turned out. This was my third attempt at making this recipe book. I originally had something in mind, copied it from something. I sent Tina a private video of what I was thinking about working on. But the only thing with that my original idea is I was able to duplicate it. I made the project, but the paper kept cracking. I was like, oh my goodness, let me show you guys. Because I done did some more work to it. And excuse the ugly paper, because I knew it was just going to be a test, so I just grabbed whatever paper I had in my stack. And I don't think when I bought this paper, it probably was a pad of paper, because I know I wouldn't have bought this as no single sheets. But anyway, this is what I had bound that with my cinch. And I was going to add tabs, and like they would have dividers in it for the different categories. And then I was going to type my recipe, like the front part of the top part of the recipe here, and then the top part of the recipe there. Then I had something in mind where I was going to attach something in the back here, hoping that if I flipped it up, that it could rest inside. Come on, Cam. That it could rest inside here, but that didn't work. But as far as everything else, I was able to, make this, and this is made out of chipboard. So all that worked out fine. And this originally was all attached here. It was just one piece. Like this is a piece of chipboard in the front. Then you had two pieces of chipboard in the back that had spacing, like an eighth of an inch spacing in between the joints. Then you have that piece back here. But what happened is, if you can see, the paper was cracking. So it was cracking here. So then I said, well, maybe could I just cover, maybe not have a joint here, and just, cover all of this. So that's why I cut it, just to see how that would work. And even with cutting it, let me show you, it would still stand up. But again, I would still have the issue with the paper cracking in between the seams. So I scrapped that. So then I came up, then I wanted to do another one that had the concept of a scrapbook. And when you look at a scrapbook, see, it has, a scrapbook has that piece in here. And when you open it, the scrapbook has, which a lot of people know, these little screws here where you can expand your album. So that's kind of what I was going for. I was going, and I had bought some of these little expanders, or these screws. So I was going for that. So everything was going fine until I made my front cover, which was fine. And then when I did my back cover, I thought I had all my measurements right, and I didn't. So it was off. So I couldn't use those two pieces together. So I had to scrap that. So then I said, you know what? I'm just going to go to tried and true, which is just to do two separate covers made out of medium weight chipboard, and I'll just bind it with my cinch. So that's what I did. Long story to get to this, guys, but thought you might have been interested in knowing, just all the, not trouble, but I would say just all the ways I try to make this recipe book. So I'm very pleased with how this came out. And the overall measurement of the book is 6 3/4 inches wide by 9 3/4 inches tall or high. The divider pages, as well as the front page in here that has measurements, what's it called? Weights and measurements on it, measure 6.5 by 9 inches. The recipe cards are 5.5 inches wide by 8 inches. And the seam covers are 1 inch by 7.25 inches. And again, I did say that the back and front was made out of medium weight chipboard, so really nice. I used my cinch, and these are 3/4 inch rings. And this paper, some of it looks like it has like a coating on it, which is really nice. So I coated, I cover the paper, the chipboard with some black paper, and they have roosters on it. You can't see it, but they have roosters that have that same kind of laminate coating. Then I have another piece of paper here, like this rust color paper. And then this, paper with the image on it, and this also came from the paper collection. And then the inside is this chicken wire paper. Then I looked at another recipe book that I had for a while, and it has these weights and measurements, so I thought that would be nice to add. So then here is my first divider section, which is main dishes. My second will be side dishes, and my third is desserts. And I use that McGill punch, and I use Word, Microsoft Word, printed these out. And then with my McGill punch, I had took some acetate and created a template so I could line it up on over top the wording, so I would know exactly where to punch it out, so it wouldn't be off center. So again, this paper, here's some of that like laminate like coating I was telling you guys about. And then that's that page, and that's where I use that tiny lace, which is just perfect for this. Some bling that was out of my stash. And all the chipboard pieces or embellishments, I cut 2 layers out and then put the decorative paper on the top. And this is lace from Joann Fabrics. That was $1. And then here's the recipes. And for my recipes, there were just things out of my stash that I tried, and I know they're tried and true recipes. And wherever I had a name, I did give people credit for that. So then again, like I said, these sleeves protective sleeves hold a 5.5 by 8.5, but I didn't want mine to go all the way up to the top. So I just cut my paper to 8 inches. So, and then here, let me back up. And here is where I was talking about, I used a piece of, put that paper on to make it my seam cover. Now, did I explain? I don't know. I'll explain it again because I did this video like 3 times. But what I did, can you remember now? So what I did here is what the sleeve looks like. And it already has holes in it. And for the most part, these holes do line up with my cinch, but not all of them did. So I had to come up with another alternative, which was to create what I'm calling my seam covers. And this is 1 inch by 7.25 inch. I just used that red line tape, and I scored my 1 inch piece of paper in half, 1 inch wide piece of paper in half, and then see they have these little stop areas like right here, up at the top. So what I just did was just sandwich that in between, and then that gave me something to punch. Oops, sorry. That gave me something to punch on so that I could create my binding. So that came out really nice. I was pleased with that. Because I really wanted to have something that would protect the recipes. So then here's my next section, which is side dishes. And this came from out of that paper collection. And as you can see, that's where I use my Sizzix. Sizzix embossing folder. to make it look like real utensils. And I think it's like, I think we said 10, but it didn't really matter. So then here is where I use that plaid stiffy on fabric stiffener. And it really stiffened it, guys, because this is just some cotton that I had in my stash. And I was just really shocked of how stiff it made. It almost felt like paper. And I was able to punch it with no problem at all. I was just surprised how clean it punched. And then it's just some silver paper that I had in my stash. This is silver paper too. It's just a lighter silver. And then for here I use puff paint. Then while it was still wet, put those micro beads on, let that dry, and then I put some glossy accents on the top of that so the beads wouldn't fall off. So really like the way that came out. And then how I adhered this fabric down was using my Xyron. I believe it's Xyron 510. I had that thing for so long. And then I used that Xyron eraser because when you put it through, because you have these holes that are punched out, you have all that sticky adhesive here. So I adhered it down to this divider and then took my adhesive eraser and just erased, and it came up really nice. So no trace of adhesive left. So this is my dessert section. So that's that. And then what I am missing is my information. So I need to add that to this before I send it to Tina. And here is the back. Again, see that laminate look. So I really like the way this turned out. And did I say I used the 3/4 of an inch rings? If I didn't, then I used 3/4 of an inch binding rings. So it came out really, really nice. I'm very pleased with having, like, with this being my third attempt. And I got this done, basically I got this done all yesterday, which was Thursday, because I was off, so I worked on it. Most of the day, you know, I stopped and took some breaks. And then I just finished it up this morning. And the finishing up part I had to do was just this right here. Because after my fabric had stiffened overnight, I just had to come in and put these elements down because everything else was made. So guys, I just wanted to share with you my recipe book. All right, thanks a lot for watching and commenting.